like if I wanted to send a request about like a revise about the timing of the meetings, should it be done to you or to Carrie?
Do to Carrie. Carrie's
Okay.
for coordinating time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that we can discuss it later in the meeting.
You can go ahead, Mayor Penko.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of Smith Falls for All for Thursday, September 12th, 2024. I'll open the meeting with our land acknowledgement. On September 12th, 2024, we acknowledge that the sacred land which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We are grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order we might meet here today. We're also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We're mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. I'll call the meeting to order at 9:08 a.m. Look for a motion for approval of the agenda. The December 12, 2024 Smith Falls for All Committee meeting agenda be approved and circulated. Moved by Ali, seconded by Janet. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. I hope I got a chance to review the minutes, the adoption of minutes at the July 11th, 2024 Smith Falls for All Committee meeting minutes be approved as circulated. Moved by Katie, second by Joanne. All in favor? Carried. Ask for disclosure of monetary interest. Seeing none. We have a delegation today which is going to be coming in remotely. She isn't here yet, so we'll move ahead with the priority items and come back to that when she's on board. So, survey results. Carrie.
So we did do the survey, and unfortunately, somebody asked me what the number of respondents was, and I can't open my Excel document up here to find out, but I will get that number to you. But we do have the survey results that we did. I think we allowed for 2 to 3 weeks for replies on it. So I sent it out to everybody yesterday, hoping that you could take a peek at it. But we wanted to do this survey to kind of guide us when we're talking about our pillars and what those initiatives should be under the pillars. So I'm just throwing that out there for all of you to look at and review. And I think we need to be mindful of some of the results of this, or all of the results of the survey, when we're looking at the initiatives. And I guess just throwing it out there for discussion, if there was any results that surprised people, or that they're happy with the results, or...
If you take a minute, just maybe quickly go through each section, so those who are listening or tuning in can have a little bit of understanding. We don't have it on the screen, right? We can't put it up?
I can put it up.
Okay.
Are our mics working? Because I'm having a hard time hearing here.
We can turn
I don't think that they are.
volume up, or maybe, yeah, or speak a little bit louder, I guess. I'm not sure which, the speakers are at the back of the room.
I was amazed at all the women.
That would have been shocking.
Is that typical, probably, I guess?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So there, it's up there, Mayor
Okay.
Penko. So the first question we asked everybody was their age. I think we started out looking for a bit, trying to get a feel for the demographic of people that were responding. So I'm probably not the best person to go through this because I can't really see the colors very well. And then we asked about gender. And yes, as Katie just alluded to, the majority were females who responded to the survey. Then we asked about self-identifying with any of the following groups. And I can't tell the color what the 55% is. My apologies.
Purple.
Purple, is that the no, I don't self-identify?
That, yes.
Okay.
As you move the slides up as you have.
Oh, I can do that. Sorry, I can't multitask very well, apparently. So 55.4% don't self-identify with any of the above noted groups.
Right.
How long have you lived in Smith?
But I guess, but also 25% indicate living with a disability,
Yes, that's.
which I think is
Yeah.
quite significant, eh?
And the others
20
could potentially fall within the marginalized groups that I
Right.
want to address today.
And then 19% identifies members of the 2SL LGBTQIA plus community.
How long have you lived in Smiths Falls? So it looks like the majority who did reply to the survey have been in Smiths Falls for over 10 years. So a significant period of time. And then we did have a small percentage, and this was something that we did discuss about trying to keep in mind actual residents of Smiths Falls and people who may not be from Smiths Falls,
That
who
was
may be in the periphery, or who knows, could be overseas and heard about it. We don't know. So we did have a significant number actually who responded but don't live in Smiths Falls.
That's 13%, but 27%, almost 28% who've been here less than 5 years.
Yep.
So a lot of obviously newcomers to our community.
That's correct, except 27.70.
This one was unfortunately, it was not surprising. This was something we did as well in the housing task force, Mayor Banco, if you'd remember, when we did the survey for housing. And it's, are you currently paying more than 30% of your gross income on rent and utilities? And the resounding number of over 77% were yes, that they are paying more than 30%. So, and as you all know, housing is one of the pillars that we're looking at. So this is something we absolutely have to keep in mind.
As we're all, can you go back one slide, Gary? Too?
Certainly.
As we're all aware, of course, we know that the general rule, if you're paying more than 30% of your income to housing, your housing is insecure or it's leading to other financial difficulties, right? Yeah, and the previous one, which shows the biggest challenge facing our community. Is it? No.
No,
Oh,
no. Have we made it there yet?
Yeah, it was bad.
it should have been before that one. Oh, it should be just before that one.
This is one thing I'd like to comment on. If
Well-
you go back
Which one?
to the one that talks about who are paying more than 30% of their income.
Okay, go.
In
Okay.
our community, there is close to 80% of us who fall in this category. And this is a crucial thing to how people become marginalized. Because unfortunately, as we all know, only 30% of your income is to go to housing. Many people in this survey have proven that a large majority of our community is being affected by this.
Thank you, Chris.
So obviously this isn't following the.
Okay, yeah. So yeah,
I just realized
continue on. Sorry.
As a homeowner, would you consider creating a secondary accessory dwelling as a detached unit on your lot? This was something that was discussed at the Housing Task Force a couple of years back. And the town has gone and created accessible or additional residential units in our zoning bylaw. So this one actually surprised me. It's not quite a 50-50 split,
Mhm.
but
Almost.
yeah, this one surprised me a
I
bit.
thought more people would be up to putting the secondary home,
Right.
whether it's for family or not, but I thought that it would go the other way.
Yeah,
But considering we've only had, to my knowledge, only a few applications for additional residential units, it's almost a surprise that there's this many people who may be interested and willing to do it, but may not be aware of even how. So as Carrie mentioned, we made changes in the zoning bylaw to enable it. We created a guidebook, staff created a guidebook to help people navigate to be able, how to easily do it in ARU. And within our community improvement plan, we do have financing opportunities or funding opportunities that provide a grant towards additional residential units.
Right.
So maybe it's just, again, the communication thing. Sometimes we communicate something once or twice and we don't go back and touch on it again. Maybe it's a matter of trying to keep that front and center. If this many people are interested in it,
Sure.
maybe we send them, if we have, did the number of people include their email addresses for feedback or?
I don't remember seeing that slide, but I can get it, but I don't think there was a lot, but I do think there was some, but I'll have to go back and get
Okay.
that.
And the other thing is, how do we promote the opportunity for an ARU and the fact that there is money there? And maybe it's a matter of maybe having maybe not the full, take pieces of that guide and maybe condense it down to a small 2-page or something we could actually send it with water bills or something we can get it in front of people.
Sure.
Because I think there is an opportunity to create much more housing in the community if people are willing to. And according to this, there's certainly a large number of people who are willing to do that.
Correct. And also, I know that there are so many people who are following the town's Facebook page. I guess one of the ways that it could be done is that to include the link in a post and just say, like, if you are interested, follow this link. There is more information, so that they can go read through the information in detail. But that information goes to the community in a very, small post that everyone can see that there are incentives out there for you if you are considering adding a, extra unit inside your plot to rent.
Yeah, and the policy actually enables 3 units on most residential lots. You can have one within your existing building. You can actually add one outside as well. It's like a tiny home if you wanted to. And the other factor is, of course, that when people, even people with mortgages or people, homeowners are having some financial challenges with inflation, having additional income. So it just makes home ownership even more affordable, right? Chris?
I'd like to suggest again, as I have in the past, that the town has at least 3 times a year the option of town hall meetings. Often technology is not accessible to all of us, and that's a misnomer. And sometimes for members of the community who don't have access for a number of reasons, this would give an opportunity and show that we are aware that there needs to be an emphasis, because housing insecurity is huge in our survey. So it means having the responsibility of being an ally to those who are marginalized, which includes housing insecurity. And even if we don't get a lot of people, if we get people who may be able to spread the word, that often is very effective. People often will make assumptions because they haven't had positive experiences. But if they meet people who may fall within the groups and realize that they have many gifts and there's nothing to be afraid of to use your property for someone who is dealing with lower or marginalized incomes, it can make a difference.
Thank you.
The water bill idea is good, I think, too. Just put a flyer in there.
Every homeowner would receive it then, right? Or the property owner.
Yeah, then you'd know that everybody at least would get it.
The problem is that many people.
Sorry, Joanne, and
No,
then
that's
Natalie.
okay. Just going back to that graph about would you consider the secondary dwelling, I learned at another meeting this week, actually, the climate change, that there was a significant percentage of renters,
Yes.
people that rent. So could that have also skewed this question a little bit? Like if they are not a homeowner and they were asked this question, would you consider they might not, if they're personally renting, they don't have the ability to do
Yeah, it
that?
depends if they answer the question or not.
Yeah,
The question does say as a homeowner, would you? But
Right,
I'm not a homeowner now, but if I was, I would, right?
right.
Okay.
And did you say that was about 45% of people that rent?
Yeah, 45, 46, somewhere in there.
That's
Yeah, it's not far from 50-50.
Thank you.
Ellie?
Oh, I think I forgot what I was gonna say.
Can we go to Mitra and come back to you? Okay, Mitra.
I just wanted to suggest that maybe we can have a similar event that we had back in the summer, just for the community, just as a community event, like information, meet and greet, so that you're there and the town staff are there and they can speak about,
We'll talk about ARUs.
Yes. The key information that would be helpful to the community to know of, that would bring people together, and also they have the opportunity if they have more questions, because through this they only know this piece of information, but if they have more questions, then there is the opportunity for them to bring forward their questions and get the answers from the right people. We can invite the gentleman who was here from the town, who was talking about all those new opportunities, so that he can be there also to answer the questions maybe.
We could probably host a workshop. We could have our planning department, maybe our chief building official, and maybe even get a contractor to come in and talk about how easy it would be, or how even costly, or give some ideas, right? So yeah,
Yes.
good point.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Elliot, come back to you.
Yeah, it's kind of just building off of that actually. It's just, I think it's important, like a lot of folks don't realize that you can have 3 units and how easy it could be, and it could be attached or it could be detached, right? I think you might have, I was thinking you might have a lot of no's up there purely because people don't think they have the space, right? Like, well, where would I put it? How would I do that? Where it can be attached, it doesn't have to be. I think now, because tiny homes are so great, but also so talked about, that's what people are thinking when they think of a secondary unit, and they're like, well, I don't have space in my backyard, or that's going to take out my lawn for my kids, whatever, but it can actually be attached. And so when we are talking about it, like making it super clear, like what are the requirements to be able to do a secondary or a third unit, right? Like you need exactly kind of what Mitra was just saying, if you had a contractor there that could explain how easy it is, like you really only need, I don't know, whatever you need, 600 square feet, right? Like,
Carriage houses are very popular out west, where they put the apartment above the garage with their own access, so
Exactly.
it doesn't take up any space because you're going up.
Carrie, can you distribute the ARU policy,
Oh,
the
absolutely.
guidebook, I guess, to everybody, just so there's a chance to look at it and understand it?
And I do
Share it.
remember that when last time I asked, I forgot his name, sorry that I just referred to him as this town staff, but I asked him how come like this information has remained so unknown. He says because it's quite few pages, it's a big material to read, and maybe not many people know how to access it or even if it exists. So I think if there is a way that we can just summarize that into some smaller sections so that people can easily go through and navigate their answers in case they have some questions. And then if you have events that people can attend and ask questions and there's someone there to answer, that would be.
even just like a little infographic, right? Like, do you want to have a secondary or third unit? Yes. Okay. Well, do you have this amount of space or more space? Okay. Well, you
Yes,
can do
exactly.
this, or you can do, these are your options, right? And you can just yes, no, all the way to the bottom of the page. And then at least people know, okay, I can't have it attached, or I can't have it detached, or no, I don't have.
Not gonna work at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Make it easy for people.
and if they can do it, then they've got other options.
Correct.
To reach out.
Very good. Okay, next.
So this slide it didn't surprise me at all. The question was, do you believe that adequate social housing is available in Smiths Falls? It's over 67% said no, that they don't think there's adequate social housing. And I don't know if anybody has any comment about that, or if that surprised them or didn't surprise them.
It doesn't surprise me. It's been a challenge.
And the key thing, I guess, is with social housing, as it's described, is it's rent geared to income. And so people living there are spending no more than 30% of their income towards the rent. And so that makes it obviously much more affordable.
You speak up, please.
Okay. Yes, just simply saying that the advantage of social housing is that it's rent geared to income. So you're paying, so the rents are established at 30% of income. So it makes it much more affordable for people. In the recent years, we've had the 5 units at the end of Chambers and 28 units at 44 Chambers. And those are that's 33 rent geared to income units plus another 6 units at 44 Chambers, which are affordable. So that's the first contributions towards social housing or deeply affordable housing in our community in decades. So we're fortunate to have it here, but we probably need another 8 or 10 of those big 44 Chambers buildings. So the need, I think there's no question the need is there. The question is how do we get there? And of course, Lanark County is the owner of the social housing. Not Caribridge Community Support owns one here. That was through a partnership. But by and large, it's really the county helped fund that as well. So the county's got a mandate, of course, to look after everywhere. So it's hard to say. I mean, there's needs in Carleton Place and needs in Almont, needs in Perth, and right now I think there's a plan for a 15 unit in Perth. Again, Caribridge is involved in that. We have a memorandum of understanding with Caribridge to develop Robinson Avenue, where the fire was in 2016. And there's some discussions going on about that right now. And so that might lead to something in 2 or 3 years. But the challenge is really when the county's really relying on provincial funding to be able to do this. And the county's got a pretty broad mandate of the areas they need to look at. So I think we're fortunate these are established here, but the needs are still much greater. Anyone else have comments on this?
I have a
Mitra?
question. Is there a way that, like, I'm not sure if it is doable, just an idea that came to my mind. Would there be possible to call for investors type of thing for this type of projects? Like, if you come and invest, these are the benefits that you can get. Because I'm sure that there are so many people who would like to invest in community building area, but they feel like they don't have enough money to start with. But if there is a project that is inviting their investment, I'm sure that they are willing to do that.
So there is like affordable housing, which is below market value, and then the rent carried to income, which is really requires heavily subsidized. So I know for 44 chambers, Cambridge had about $4 million of the $8 million cost in capital up front and rent subsidies for the 28 rent carried to income units. That's what it took to make it deeply affordable. Some of the rents are very modest because the incomes are very low. When it comes to below market rent, CMHC is a program that I know some builders locally have taken advantage of, and they have to provide a certain number of affordable units, so below market rent. And so they work with tenants and provide those units. So I don't know the total number, probably about a dozen altogether within some of the recent builds in town. But we do, part of our community improvement plan, we also have provisions to provide funding towards affordable units.
Yes.
And so example, for 44 chambers, we committed in principle to what's called a tax abatement. So it has to come back to council to be finalized, but the commitment we made was essentially, I think it's about a 90% waiver of their taxes for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So the things we can do, so if a builder came to council and said, or came to the town and said, we want to build 24 units, and we want to make 6 of those affordable, we have mechanisms to try and help encourage it.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Chris?
One of the faith communities was involved in 44 chambers by supporting it. That was St. John's. So we also have to acknowledge that we may have groups in the community who are interested in supporting affordable housing, but may not be the ones who want to be involved in actually the administrative side. But they made quite a significant contribution. When Tweed came here, we actually had a discussion before chambers where I said that Tweed should be responsible for finding housing and funding housing. That never happened. We need to have groups who are going to come in where they're going to bring employees, take responsibility of assisting their own employees for affordable housing. After Tweed came, which is no longer here, we ended up having a skyrocket in rents in this town, which affected a lot of people adversely.
Thanks, Chris. The Tweed is still here. They're just on the downside side.
Thank you for correcting me.
Yeah,
about
so
that, but
They just put on smaller footprint across the road.
yeah, it did end up causing a lot of crisis in housing here as a result, because many landlords decided that the rents could be exorbitantly raised and they were not necessarily safe housing. Let's just put it that way.
Well, and yeah, to your point, I think what's happened with the housing demand in recent years, housing is seen as an investment, really, for a lot of major corporations and a lot of investors. And we've seen it in town where people largely from out of town have bought up a lot of properties. Sometimes just duplex or triplexes or multiplexes or buy multiple ones, and then do try to raise the rents. And there is a model that they follow. I'm sure there's probably been seminars out there teaching people this, but it's called BRRRR. So it's buy, evict, renovate, refinance, and repeat. And if you can do that as an investor, well, it's quite successful, because once you get people out, you end up doing some minor renovations, doubling the rent, and then you refinance based, because it's the leases that are going to enable you to get higher amounts financed, but it leaves people very vulnerable and displaced. And we had one situation this summer where an individual had purchased over 20 units in multiple buildings in town, took possession the end of June, and advised everybody on July 1st that the rent was going up $500 a month. Now, fortunately, they took the initiative to reach out, and between Linda Trenner from Legal Clinic and myself, we had hosted a meeting with them in July, and told them all that you can't raise the rent, can't evict you, like all of these things that this individual is threatening to do. So, but it took a long time for people to actually realize I do have the rights, because once you're concerned about losing your home, then you sometimes are willing to pay an extra price just to be able to stay, because you feel you're having to move and find something else is even a greater fear. So that's settled down for now, but that's just typical of other things we've seen and heard in recent years. And I don't think it's going to change, unfortunately, unless there's more consequences within provincial laws that would say if you try these things, then there's going to be some significant penalties.
And just finally, it creates tremendous trauma. And it is a form of abuse, although it may not be recognized as such. But that's the reality, and there are consequences. There are very many positive persons who do rent, but all it takes is a few of these. And then we have, right now, I believe we have 2 homeless camps in the area. So this is what ends up happening as a result of that.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, Carrie. Oh, sorry, Mitra.
So now I figured out how this machine works.
Okay.
So did you have something to say? Mitra?
I think one of the ways to prevent that probably is to provide more information sessions in the community, as just the one that we had in the summer, for the community to just get together and be educated about their rights, landlord and tenant rights, so that they know what they can accept and what is not something that should be told to them within a very short timeline to take action about. I think we need to inform people about what are their rights out there, so that they wouldn't panic. They wouldn't think like, okay, I'm losing this, what should I do? Should I pay? That will help tremendously.
I think on our, we plan to have Linda come to a meeting in the future. We can talk and do another workshop. It's not before.
So back to the demographics, because I figured out what I was doing wrong. Majority of the people who filled out this survey have lived in Canada over 10 years. And these, which of the following do you consider to be the biggest challenge facing the community of Smiths Falls? This one was divided, probably one of the most of the divided for the responses. There was a lot who didn't respond. 50% indicated housing. If I get this wrong, let me know, because like I said, I can't see the color that great. Poverty. Thank you. And inclusivity is just about 11%, 12% other. So this one, I think this one shows that we've hit the nail on the head with our 4 pillars, to be quite honest. I feel that this one just solidifies what we're moving forward.
Housing, poverty, and food security. All interrelated. Comments here?
I honestly was shocked that inclusive, that word, is lower than I thought it would be. I thought it would be a little bit higher, but I'm happy that it's low.
Yeah.
It's a good result, but yes, definitely our 4 pillars are shown on this slide.
I wonder, when they said other, what did they mean? Did they include a question under that? If like your option is none of these items, what it is, so that they can write it down?
There is another, and that was included in a separate, or the results of that were included on a separate Excel spreadsheet.
Okay.
I didn't include them in this, but I can send that around to the other group.
Were folks only getting, like, could they only choose one, or could they choose 2?
For this one,
Multiple.
I think this one was a multiple
Yeah.
one.
Okay, that's interesting then, especially I was thinking the inclusivity was probably low because folks were like, well, inclusivity we need to work on, but housing or food affects all, right? So that's interesting though, that it is lower than I thought it would be.
I thought it would be.
If people could have chosen multiple.
I'm just gonna say that I think it's because sometimes people don't understand what inclusivity means.
That's awesome.
That is also right.
Any other comments here before we move ahead? Carrie?
Do you believe that adequate affordable housing is available in Smiths Falls? And resounding no for that one, which wasn't surprising given the question above about their or the question we dealt with before regarding social housing.
And just back to that for a moment, so just to, goes back to Joanne's comments. So almost half of our citizens are renting. And so if your unit was built after 2008, occupied after 2018, the rent controls don't apply. So there is people at risk of significant increases in rent if the landlord chooses to do so, and there's enough, I guess, limited supply that people are forced to pay the higher amount. But the demand in recent years is what's really pushed up the prices. Like we've long had, even going back 10 years ago, I think we're probably about 44%, 45% rent tenants, citizens as tenants, and say it's a little higher now. But anything that's been built in recent years, other than a handful, are affordable. So it's really the older existing buildings, which we would hope there would be some affordability. And if people can stay where they are and been there for a while, that's where the rents are very affordable. So go back to the example I mentioned that happened in July. There are people there paying $500 or $600 a month, and they've been there for 35 years or 20 years. So they've been there for a long time. And so they are, I would say, probably somewhat secure, housing secure as long as they can stay. But it's when they're forced to move, and that's where we've seen obviously the situations in recent years where some landlords, not all, some landlords try to find ways to get the people out, which leads to the great affordability limitations.
1,500 to 1,800 a month for a small little 1 bedroom for some, family free.
It's not affordable. And
it's not
Ottawa is
practical, or
even
it's not affordable.
worse. Like if people want to move outside, even in Perth or let's say Kemptville, same issue. Carson
Not just
Place
here, it
is
is
not
everywhere.
like, it's just growing problem in the community.
And part of it,
70%, we cannot forget that we have 70% of people now paying over the 30% allotted. That's really an alarm that needs to continue to go off.
yeah, and I go back to the county does a survey on that every few years. And the last number, and it was I think for 2022, was about 50%. So I don't know if this is just, if this is up, or is it simply a snapshot of those who entered the survey? I mean, I don't know, but regardless of between 50 and 70, it's still way too much, right? But the other factor, of course, that contributes to this so much is the volume of people who are living in lower income in town. And so if we have roughly 10% of people who are living on ODSP, probably another 7% on OW, those incomes are very modest. So you can't find, well, ODSP is about $1,300. And if you've got, you might get maybe another rent supplement or support portable housing benefit, something, maybe another $500 a month, but your rent is going to be $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 a month. Even I know someone got a bachelor recently, and it's $1,350 a month, and that's in an older building. That's sort of the bottom. That's the entry level point. It seems to find anything you can live in that's even remotely affordable.
900 just for a room in a house, it seems, and you
Yeah.
know what, then
It's
the
not
money's
good.
gone, there's nothing left for food.
Mhm.
I'm thinking like actually we can have probably a session about just the house. Like this is too big to be just discussed in as an item. I think we should put a different session only for housing. But what I was thinking, and then that's the question. Can there be, or is there a plan like people can rent but pay towards that house instead of renting, like as they are paying the rent, and that is considered as a contribution towards owning that house? Is there such a plan?
Nothing formal. No, I mean, I think it happens sometimes.
Could it be
But
something that we can look at, like the town can look at?
I don't know if it's something we would get involved in. I
Each
tend to think
homeowner would have to decide.
Yeah, a property owner.
But the properties that like are being built from scratch? Like if there is a property that is going to be for the community, can people put money and start? Because some people do not necessarily fall into low income, and they are not really high income. They are average, but they cannot afford buying a property of their own, especially with the interest rates of today and everything, and the inflation, of course. So, but they would like to look at that as an option, that they pay as if they are going to own this house that is being built for them when it is done.
Well, so the town owns the property between Ferguson and Ferrara Drive, behind Canadian Tire. And so we've got, I think it's about 14 acres. And we're doing a secondary study right now on what should we do with that property. And I would say we haven't had discussion at council really as to what it could be. I have a vision, I think, what we could do with it. And part of that relates to potentially creating affordable homes. So the example being, since we own the land, could we create a variety of housing uses there? And if we're going to, let's say, issue a request for proposal saying, well, if you're a homeowner, will you build 20 smaller affordable homes, and the town's contribution towards making them affordable maybe could be the land, as an example. And maybe we build a number of homes which are 1,000 or 1,200 square feet that could be slab on grade, could be very efficiently built to be low cost of utilities. So I think there's an opportunity there.
Yes.
And maybe what we can do, Carrie, is let's check in see the status of that. Maybe we can have a broader discussion about that at an upcoming meeting.
Condos as well. Condos and rentals.
Little houses.
Yeah. Because we own it, we do have some autonomy, right? Ellie?
Yeah, two things. I think, I think that'd be great if the town did that, like, excellent, super. But just, so Cornerstone, like, we own a house and we have a secondary attached unit, and we're trying to get a third detached unit on the ground. But like for us, and I don't know who owns majority of affordable housing, but like for us, I know Caribridge owns quite a bit in Smith Falls. Like that's part of our sustainability planning. And so, if you're going to look at that, if majority of the people who own affordable housing are not-for-profits, you're never going to see that rent-own piece, because that's part of our sustainability planning, right? Like that's how we are planning on managing to grow or whichever. So I think that's tricky to see, but I also think that, maybe a more kind of quicker, accessible way to look at it would be they're changing some of the policies around like renting. And so now if you don't pay your rent on time, that affects your credit. But currently there's nothing to show, like when I pay my mortgage every day or every month, like that builds my credit. And they're looking at changing the policy so that when you pay your rent, that supports your credit. Because right now, a majority of renters have issues purchasing a house because they don't have the credit to do it. So I think that is going to change some things going forward. I don't think the policy is in place yet, but it is something that's being talked about and something that a lot of people are keen on just because it makes sense. If you pay your mortgage every month, your credit builds. If you pay your rent every month, your credit should build. And that's something a lot of renters have complained about in the past. Like they're stuck. They have no way to build credit to afford a loan to get the mortgage. So that's one piece that might be a little bit more like within our grasp to promote and talk about. And then this is just a little plug before I forget, but have a conversation around housing specifically. Cornerstone is presenting at Town Council at the end of October to talk all things housing and homelessness. So come join us.
So where are we at now? So we talked about that one. So we talked about the accessory unit, and it was kind of a 50-50 split. And then we asked if yes, for who. And so it's majority didn't respond to this. Most were a family member, with some being rent to the general public. I didn't think the no response would have been so big for that one.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you'd have an opinion one way or the other about it, but
They're open, maybe.
yeah. Do you believe that adequate social housing is available in Smiths Falls? Again, a resounding no. No surprises there considering the responses we've had previously. And do you believe that there's adequate housing in Smiths Falls to meet everyone's needs? And again, that it follows suit to the previous one. That one, again, was a resounding no. I don't think that's a surprise to any of us here.
And that's despite over 1,000 new units in the last 5 or 6 years. So a lot of supply, but still, I guess there's still so much demand. And I'm sure the affordability factor comes into that question too.
This question again was more of a demographic, asking the ethnicity of the individual responding. This one was a resounding people were white that responded to this survey. Employment status, majority, I can't see the colors, somebody's gonna have to help me out on that.
Blue on the right
Yeah.
Is that full-time?
Yeah, full-time on.
and green is the next large.
53% are full-time.
And retired is 20%.
28% retired.
3.6% unemployed.
So interesting that over half the people, well, 80% are retired or working full-time, are still having great difficulty. They're paying, well, 70% of them are paying more than 30% of their income to rent, which was really, you put it in that perspective. So even those that are fully employed or retired are still feeling great difficulty. I know the 2021 census indicated that just over the median employment income, so 31,000. So, which is essentially minimum wage. So half of the people working in Smiths Falls are actually living off minimum wage. So it's no shocker, I guess, that housing insecurity, the level of poverty.
And at least 10% is probably under 20,000. Yes, that's the truth. And
Well,
that's quite a few people.
There's with a lot of, if they're full-time, but if they're full-time working, they're at least minimum wage,
Or if
right?
you're living on ODSP instead of universal
Yeah.
income.
Very low. Additional comments here? Or?
I was just noticing 3.6% unemployed, but only 1.2% looking for work. Is there maybe no jobs out there as well? Could that be an issue, you know?
Yeah, but there still is a low number of respondents who are not working.
Yes. It's not bad.
Yeah, it's half of the current unemployment rate.
Which of the following community initiatives are you aware of? And we listed like rent supplements, Housing First, the food bank, geared to income, food hub, basic income. So I mean, this one gave me a little bit of assurance that people are aware of some of the programs in the area.
And again, it shows the biggest concern is food to begin with, like 74% and 86%. One is for food bank and the other is for food hub. Correct?
Our
Am
numbers
I
are
seeing
going
the
up.
right color? Sorry, rent supplement. The second largest is the food hub. Yeah. The food bank. So food and housing.
They kind of go hand in hand because once their rent is paid, they have no money left for food.
And that's a basic human right that we're feeling.
So is housing.
Right, exactly.
Well, we were discussing last session about like how they are connected, like having that feeling of safety that you have a roof above you, both and a food at your table. So it helps the mental health. It helps the physical health. The stress goes down, and the person can focus on other areas of their family needs.
And it leads to crisis, mental health crisis that wouldn't exist otherwise eventually.
And then the